Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we're going to be going over the Lightning Briar deck list that took down the UK Nationals, but with my spin on it, I don't actually know what that deck list was, so I basically just took the concept of what I saw them playing. I watched like half of the final game and threw this together. I also looked at the list that went top 8 at Cincinnati and messed with that too, so I did actually know that list and just kind of came up with what I thought was good. I took it to my local armory last night, which was 4 rounds, and I went 4-0, which was pretty great. I was used to playing aggro Katsu, so if you're used to playing an aggro deck in this game, this is probably the most aggro deck this game has ever had in terms of just pure aggro. It tries to play basically entirely zero cost cards, which gives you the advantage of having basically never to pitch. Um, and that makes it so you're always kind of a card up on your opponent, right? Usually they have to pitch to it to attacks, which means they lose a card to pitching, and you don't have to do that. You just get to play all your cards out and rarely worry about pitching. It tries to abuse Vyendel Spring Tunic to be able to get free Rosetta Thorn swings, and also sometimes free Electrifies, because you do play 3 red Electrifies. And basically the deck just tries to, just play free cards that swing for 4 and just kill the opponent doing like 12, 16, 20, 24 damage a turn, right? It can pump out really explosive turns. The game plan is fairly simple. The important thing to know is when to block. Sometimes you do want to block, and your deck can block quite well. And so that is really what you're trying to see how to do here. I'm going to go over the deck. I'm going to go over the core since honestly, I literally picked up this deck last night. It felt really strong, and I'm not sure yet, but I may switch off of Bravo, who I was going to bring to Nationals in a few days. It's Friday, I believe the 5th. I was going to bring Bravo to Nationals in the calling. I might switch to this. I know it's a last minute switch, but it fits my playstyle, and it's really fun, and I think it's maybe the strongest deck in the game, or at least one of them. And you also get an advantage. You get an advantage in Nationals and in callings playing new decks that people haven't really practiced against. They don't, maybe they have 5 or 6 games in it, but people have hundreds of games into Bravo, right? So picking up a new deck gives you advantage there. Well, that's enough talking. Let's get into the actual deck list, right? So the list is just going to run, 4 equipment. We're not running any sideboard tech equipment. We're running the Rosetta Thorn is the weapon, which is an incredibly powerful weapon that swings for 2 and 2 arcane if you've played a non-attack and an attack action. It only costs 1 to swing with. We're playing Arcanite Skullcap. It's pretty much just the only good option for us. There's nothing else really going on there, and it just blocks for 3 total, quote unquote, by 2 and then 1, which is just great for not having to pay for it. Spring Tunic is really crucial in this deck to give us free Rosetta Thorn swings every 3 turns, or free Razor Reflex or Electrifies, which I believe are our only cards that cost anything. Grasp of the Arknight pretty much never activate. Sometimes if you have a hand that has like 2 yellows, maybe you'll activate it. But really, it's also just another card that blocks for 3 total, which is really nice. Blocking with equipment gives you tempo in this game, so you can really swing the tempo if you're behind on tempo by blocking with equipment instead of cards from hand. And then Snapdragon Scalers is really key for big turns when you really want to just do a ton of damage. You don't have enough to give multiple attacks go again. So Snapdragon Scalers can get you that extra swing in and just do a ton of extra damage. And then our main deck is these 60 cards. Most of it I'm pretty confident in. I have a core that we're going to go over after that I think is like a core of 50 or so cards. Most of it I'm confident in. There's some cards that I think you can mess around with. I'll have both this deck and the core list linked in the description below. But I recommend you kind of mess around with it. It's a new deck. It's still evolving. I'm not super confident in the sideboard either. But I mean, the deck's obviously quite strong, and I think if you just never sideboard and played the same 60, you'd be fine most of the time anyways. Um, but we'll go over the main deck first. So pretty much, I think some people call this deck Redline Briar because almost everything is, a red pitch. It's red lines, right? So uh, it could be called that. I call it Lightning Briar just because, the element it chooses is lightning. But we have these, and let me zoom in here so we can actually read the cards a bit better. We have 3 red Arcanic Shockwave. It's a 0 for 4, which is Pretty much every attack in the deck is a 0 for 4. Um, that's the goal at least, right? It's a good rate because they typically can't efficiently block it. Most decks can't efficiently block for 4 unless they're playing defense reactions, and they can't play nearly as many. I mean, there's what, maybe like 9 0 for 4 defense reactions they can play, maybe more than that. But typically, I mean, maybe 12, but typically they can't play nearly enough defense reactions to consistently block for 4 with just one card. So really, you're just trying to hit those break points, is what we call them in this game. Organic Shockwave is a 0 for 4. If you fuse it with a lightning card, it'll also deal 1 arcane, which is pretty nice. And it can block for 3. This deck does block when it needs to. You try not to block. The most important things to block are really powerful on hits, right? If you're getting hit by something that would, turn off that would punish you a lot, right? Like I was playing against Alexi, you got to turn off Remorseless triggers, so you're going to try to block Remorseless there, because Remorseless would just hurt your deck hurt your game plan so bad if it hits you. So you're trying to block powerful on hits, but against Dash, for example, the only card you're really going to care about blocking is Command and Conquer if you have a card in Arsenal. If you don't, then you really don't care about blocking it either. But it's the on hits that you care about blocking. So the fact that it blocks for 3 is relevant. We're playing 3 red ball lightnings and 2 yellow here. This is a 0 cost attack that has go again innately, which is pretty powerful. And it swings for 3, unfortunately. I mean, 4 would be busted, but it swings for 3 in the red and 2 for the yellow. And it also has a pretty powerful effect where your lightning and elemental cards deal an extra damage if they hit. So that's pretty powerful as well. And it is lightning diffuse. My favorite card in the deck, which I think is a really fun card to use and also quite powerful, is a Coaxa Commotion. So this is another 0 for 4 attack. And if it hits, you can make both. So this is both players will get this effect. You both make a Quicken token, draw a card, or gain a life, and you can choose any combination of those. When I was playing, I never chose gain a life because you don't want to make your opponent healthier here. I would only ever choose that if I was almost dead myself and I happen to be hitting this. If you're at less life than your opponent, maybe you choose it, but only if you're like sub 10. If you're at like 2 life, you would probably choose to gain a life, but typically you don't choose that mode. But almost always, pretty much always, I choose the first two. You get a Quicken token and draw a card. So what that'll do is, you'll draw another card, and the idea there is that your cards all swing for 4, and their cards only block for 3. So typically, you're drawing a card that will deal more damage than they can block, right? That's pretty good logic. Your card that you're going to draw will swing for 4. They can only block for 3. Makes sense, right? So you're getting more advantage by drawing a card than they are. The Quicken token, a lot of decks just can't abuse as much as we can. If they're a control deck, Bravo, what are they going to do with the Quicken token? Maybe swing for a hammer and then do an attack. But typically, the Quicken token just benefits our deck so much more. I've had times where I Coaxa Commotion, draw a card with, getting a Quicken token, play that 0 for 4 attack that'll have go again from that Quicken token, and then swing with a Rosetta. And that's just so much extra damage off of that Coaxa Commotion, right? Coaxa Commotion basically swing for 8 there by drawing me a card with a Quicken token. Amazing card, really powerful on hit, pretty much as good, if not better than Snatch hitting, really. I mean, Snatch only draws you a card, but this also makes a Quicken token, which is about as good as you just drawing a card yourself, right? So very powerful 0 for 4. Heavily recommend at least trying the 3 Coaxa Commotion. Some people don't like it as much as I do, but I think it's a phenomenal card. We played 3 red Electrify. This card you pretty much only want to Arsenal. You pretty much never play it from hands because it's just not that great to pay a resource to do that. I will pretty much only try to play this card if I have the Tunic counter, because I don't really want to pitch a card to actually pay for it. So what I'll do is if I know I'm gonna be, I'm following 2 Tunic counters and I know I'll be at 3 Tunic counters next turn, I'll Arsenal the Electrify, right? On the next turn, I'll use the Tunic counter to make a resource, play the Electrify, and then you have basically a 6-card hand because the Electrify replaces itself and counts as a card being played, and then you have 5 cards in hand. So it's pretty absurd. Really good turn to be able to use a Tunic counter to play the Electrify from Arsenal. If I'm not going to be on 3 Tunic counters anytime soon, right? If I'm on 0 counters or 1 counter, I'll usually pitch the Electrify to play to pay for my Rosetta Thorn if I can, right? Because it's just not very optimal to pay for it. So I'm trying to either use the Electrify to Arsenal and pay for it with a Tunic counter, or I'm trying to pitch it to pay for Rosetta Thorn, which is also not bad because you can use it to fuse early on since it's a lightning card, and then the last attack of the chain can be your Rosetta Thorn that you're pitching with an Electrify, right? So pretty good either way. I think just the reds are worth it. If you put too many of them in the deck, you can't consistently, use tunic counters for them, and that's really the only time you want to play the card itself. 3 Enlightened Strike. This card's like not as impressive as you would think it would be. It's quite good, but when you're bottoming a card, that card might also be a 4-cost attack or a 4-power attack, and then it's like you're putting away 4 power when if this was just another 0 for 4, that's 8 power total. So it's a good card. The nice thing about it is the flexibility, but it's actually like lower on the damage part of the scale. But the deck, there's only so many options for cards in Flesh and Blood right now since the card pool is pretty small. So I think it's still a solid option. Usually I'm either picking draw card or go again. The +2 isn't great in this deck because if you pick draw card, so basically if Enlightened Strike already has go again from an Embodiment Lightning, a Quicken Token, or any other option that would give it go again, if Enlightened Strike already has go again, I'll pick draw card, and that'll draw me into more gas, like Entwine Lightning next to it, which is more damage than the +2 option, right? If Enlightened Strike doesn't have go again, I'll just pick the go again option, right? And so those are usually the best 2 options. I don't think I ever picked the +2, and I don't know when you would pick the +2 option, honestly. Drawing a card is pretty much always stronger. Even if you draw a card that's a non-attack action, you can then either arsenal that card or you can pitch it to Rosetta Thorn. So the draw card pretty much deals more damage in the end than the +2. But yeah, it's a helpful card. It can give itself go again if you need to go again into Rosetta Thorn and you don't have any other way to get it go again, but it's pretty strong. Entwine Lightning is a solid 0 for 4, and if you fuse it with the Lightning card, it gains go again. Nothing else to say there, really. Pretty simple. Strong 0 for 4 with go again. Yeah, solid card. Exude Confidence is a pretty strong card here. It is a 0 for 4, like everything else in the deck for the most part, except for the Ball Lightnings. And it turns off defense reacts in instants for the entire combat chain. So when you're playing Exude Confidence, remember not to try and play any non-attack actions after it, because that will break that chain. But ideally, you can keep the chain open by just continuously playing attacks after the Exude Confidence. Additionally, buffing the Exude Confidence is quite good because they cannot defend it. The effect is turned on as long as they don't defend it with a card with equal or greater power, right? So if you Nimblism right here into an Exude Confidence, Exude will be for 7, and they will have to block with a card with power 7 or greater to turn off the Exude Confidence effect. So quite good to buff the Exude Confidence. I'd recommend playing all your non-attack actions and then play the Exude Confidence, hopefully with go again from an Embodiment of Lightning, and then you can play more attacks that have go again or just hit harder. But buffing the Exude Confidence is quite good, and really, even if they're a deck that doesn't have any defense reactions, it's just a 0 for 4. It just does damage, right? The 3 red Lightning Press are quite good, quite good. It's a 0 to give an attack +3. It's just really strong, right? Give an attack +3 is quite good. It's also lightning to fuse stuff. But yeah, it's a 0 cost Razor Reflex that doesn't give go again on a hit, is basically what it is. It's very powerful. Another thing that you can remember, I guess, is it's an instant. So if you're trying to pop a Phantasm, for example, you can play this on top of a blocking attack action. So if I'm trying to pop like a Herald of Erudition, I can block with Lightning Surge and then Lightning Press my Lightning Surge to make it a 7 power attack that will pop the Phantasm. Just like something you can do sometimes. I never did it myself because usually I'm just racing, but it is something that you can note, right? If you need to increase the power of an attack for something outside of attacking itself, Lightning Press is an instant and can be played at any time you have priority. Next up, we have Lightning Surge, another 0 for 4 attack. This one is a lightning action, so it can be used for fusing as well. And if you play it from Arsenal, it has go again. So a lot of times you will Arsenal this card just to give it go again. It's quite good. It's nice because you can use it to fuse, one of your Arcanic Shockwaves or other attacks that require fuse, like your Entwine Lightnings right here. So you can fuse it with an Entwine Lightning and then keep it in hand to Arsenal at the end of the turn. just a powerful 0 for 4. And if it has Go Again by Embodiment of Lightning, you can just play it. You know, you don't have to arsenal it, but arsenaling it is quite good. Nimblism is just a generically good card. It costs 0. It's a non-attack action with Go Again for Embodiment of Lightnings, and it gives your next attack action with cost 1 or less +3 damage or +3 physical attack power, however you want to say. Just good, just a good card. Pretty much hits. I believe it does hit every card in the main deck, and every card that you want to play, anyways. So pretty powerful card. And I would never, cut any of those. We're playing 6 Plunder Run here. The 3 reds and the 3 yellows. This card's pretty absurd because your deck doesn't really threaten a lot of on hits. You have the Coax Commotions and Snatches, but I think those are the only on hits outside of that have effects that don't deal damage, right? So Plunder Run, 6 of them gives your cards that don't normally have scary on hits, actually scary on hits of drawing a card. I usually try to arsenal these as well. The arsenal effect is obviously quite strong, especially the reds. I would recommend arsenaling. But if you really, really need an Embodiment of Lightning, it's not bad just to play it from hand. It still adds that draw effect to your cards, and it will give you an Embodiment of Lightning, right? So if I have 2 Plunder Runs in hand, I'll play one of them to get the Embodiment of Lightning if I have a second on attack action already. Or you can even play 2 Plunder Runs, get an Embodiment of Lightning, play an attack. That attack threatens to draw 2 if it hits and has Go Again. That's still pretty solid, but obviously arsenaling these makes it absurd. Red Plunder Run is probably the strongest aggro attack, or probably the strongest aggro card in the entire game. It's just so good to play from Arsenal. Give your next attack action +3, and threaten all of your attack actions to draw a card whenever the first one hits for the rest of the turn. Just absolutely insane. I saw some decks running the blues. That's an option, but there's 2 problems with blues. One, if you're running 9 Plunder Runs, that's just a lot, and you're not going to be consistently able to arsenal all of them. The second is the blues are obviously a lot weaker from arsenal, only giving +1. And the third is that Ravenous Rabble is a pretty strong card, and it gets -X, where X is the pitch value. So if you reveal a blue off of Ravenous Rabble, it gets -3, being only a 0 for 2 damage, which is quite weak. So we're trying to limit how many non-red cards we have. Ideally, Ravenous Rabble always flips a red and will be a 0 for 4 with Go Again, which is very strong. Moving on to that, we have Ravenous Rabble. We're playing the 3 reds. This is a 0 for 5 with Go Again, but it gets X, where X is the pitch value of the top card of your deck that you'll flip and reveal. So hopefully you flip a red card, which has, reds have a pitch value of 1, and it'll get -1. If you flip a yellow, it's not the end of the world because it's a 0 for 3 with Go Again. But pitching a blue obviously makes it quite weak, being a 0 for 2 with Go Again. Hopefully, you should always hit a red. Not always, but I think we play like 50+ reds, so should almost always be hitting a red. Just a very powerful attack. Similar to Ball Lightning, it already has Go Again, which can just do really good stuff, meaning it doesn't need an Embodiment of Lightning. It doesn't need any other ways to give it Go Again. It just has it itself. We have 3 Razor Reflex. This card's quite good. It does cost a resource, meaning you'd ideally like to use a Tunic counter to play it. Similar to Electrify, you will typically pitch it to Rosetta Thorn if you don't have a Tunic counter. But sometimes it's worth pitching a card in hand to play it if you know it's going to connect, right? One time I did Plunder Run, got an Embodiment token, Embodiment of Lightning, right? And then I played a non-attack action, or I played an attack action, sorry, for 4. And one of those Plunder Runs was from Arsenal, right? So I had a card in hand and Razor Reflex in hand. Okay, so Plunder Run, swinging for like 7, I think, because I had a red Plunder Run from Arsenal, and they blocked 9, right? So I have a Razor Reflex and a card in hand. At this point, it's very worth it to pitch that card and Razor Reflex, because then when that attack action connects, I'll draw 2 cards off of those Plunder Runs, which makes it very worth it. So there's scenarios where it's worth it to pitch to play the Razor Reflex, but typically it's going to be similar to Electrify, where you're only using Tunic counters to pay for it, or you're just going to pitch it to swing with Rosetta Thorn. But it's a good card when you need it. It definitely wins games, and it's just quite a powerful card. 1 for 3 +3, and if it hits Go Again, it's just powerful. Scar for Scar is one of the strongest aggro cards in the game, and when you're racing, Usually when you're racing, the health goes back and forth. So you hit them, then they hit you lower, and then you hit them lower, and then they hit you lower until one of you, usually in the sub 10 health range, you're kind of fighting back and forth to try to kill each other at that point. It's a very powerful card when you're above 10 health and racing each other. You'll be at less health, and you can play it. It'll have go again. It's a 0 for 4. We're playing 3 red snatch. This is another 0 for 4. This one is one of our only powerful on hit triggers, like I was saying, similar to Coke to Commotion. I think those are our 6 strongest on hit triggers. So this is, doesn't need the plunder run to threaten a draw. Fortunately, doesn't have go again, but Briar is quite good at making embodiment of lightnings that will give the snatch go again. So any non-attack action into another non-attack action into snatch, gives snatch go again, and it's a powerful card with go again. So we're just running, like I said, all 0 for 4 attacks, cost 0, swing for 4, outside of the ball lightnings. We're playing 6 Weave Lightning. The unfortunate thing is this usually won't buff your attack actions because most of the attack actions in the deck are not lightning or elemental. But when it does buff them, it's quite good. Sometimes it'll even give them go again if they're fused, which I think is just the Entwine Lightnings, which will have go again anyway. So I think the only thing it'll give go again is Arcanic Shockwave if it's fused, but I've done it. It's powerful. You can have a hand where your hand is Weave Lightning, Arcanic Shockwave, and Lightning Surge. So you'll Weave Lightning, and then you will Arcanic Shockwave. You'll fuse Lightning Surge, which will make that Arcanic Shockwave get the buff from Weave Lightning, so it'll be for either 6 or 7. It'll get go again because you fused it and had Weave Lightning played, and it'll deal the Arcane. So, and then you can Arsenal that Surge Lightning after. So it does powerful things. The main thing is it's a non-attack action with go again, which can make embodiments. And then outside of that, it can also do fusing stuff. It's just good to have these in the deck. Cutting them just makes the deck less consistent, and playing them when they don't do anything other than make an embodiment of lightning isn't even that bad, which is kind of crazy. Our last 2 cards are this Gorganian Tome, which you just play, and it draws a card, and it has go again. It just gets you halfway there to an embodiment of lightning. Just, everything good replaces itself. It's just a good card. You just play it, right? You draw it and you play it. It doesn't pitch for anything. You just draw and play it. That's pretty simple. And Sonata Arcanics are hopefully 3 more Gorganian Tomes, basically. You play it for 0 always. It'll reveal the top 3 cards. If you have a non-attack action and an attack action, you can pick an attack action from the 3 revealed, put it in your hand. Your opponent takes 1 Arcane, and then you banish Sonata and shuffle your deck. And it has go again. So hopefully it's basically 0, go again, draw a card, deal 1 Arcane, which is a better Gorganian Tome in a way. The problem is it can whiff, and when it whiffs, it feels really bad, but it still gets you halfway there to an embodiment of lightning, so it's not the end of the world if it whiffs, but it does feel bad. I've heard some people want to cut them. I think it's too good when it hits to cut, so hopefully it'll just always hit. If I play all 3 during a game, I'll usually hit 2 out of the 3, and that's enough power when it hits to be worth playing in my opinion. So that is the main deck. Like I said, we have a sideboard that I'm not sure on. Currently, we're playing 3 Command and Conquer and 3 Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath. Those are pretty much entirely just to pop Phantasm. I bring these cards in to pop Phantasm against Prism. They're going to try to rush you with Heralds and out aggro you. Popping their Phantasms is very powerful. So that's what these are for. I guess you could play Command and Conquer if you really want to, but it costs 2, which is really hard to hit without, pitching a yellow if you happen to have a yellow, which is going to be rare, or using a Tunic counter and pitching a red, but it's pretty bad to have to pay 2 to use an attack in this deck, so I never actually, resolve the Command and Conquer. I just use them to block Phantasms. And same with Ninth Blade. Obviously, you're never going to pay 9, and you pretty much never have room chance. So these are just to pop Phantasms. These D-Reacts are for decks that have Dominate effects, so like Bravo. I haven't actually tested with them. I didn't play against any Bravos, but I would assume they're good there. You're going to Arsenal them to stop Spinal Crushes, which just absolutely debilitate this deck. You can't do anything when you get Spinal Crushed, so you're going to hold it in Arsenal until they use a big dominating crush, either a Crippling Crush, a Terror Sunder attack, or a Spinal Crush. And then you'll use that. Sigil of Suffering is extra good because it deals the damage, which can sometimes win you a game. If the opponent's at 1 but able to full block all of your swings, they might not be able to stop that Sigil of Suffering. So Sigil of Suffering is extra good. Sink Blow is also good. Those are against anything with dominates like Bravo. And then the last 3 are these Blinks. They're for like you're playing against someone that has Blizzard in their deck or Arclight Sentinel. So against Prism, I don't even know if I bring them in against Prism. I'm not sure on these Blinks. Do you know some Lexis are playing Blizzard to stop us now? So Blizzard, you have to pay 2 or lose Go again. You can just blink in response to get an action point, and then you don't lose Go again. So I guess it doesn't really matter, right? It could be any blue also because you can just pay for the Blizzard in the first place. So these Blinks are iffy. I'm not sure if they're worth it. Could be anything. But this is, the sideboard's kind of up to you to mess with. I kind of like these 6 ways to pop Phantasm and 6 defense reacts. Not as sure on the Blinks. And I'm going to show you the core now real quick. The core is basically just all the red cards and none of the sideboard. So this is just like the 52 core cards I would keep in the deck. It doesn't have these yellow ball lightnings, these yellow weave lightnings, or these yellow plunder runs. Because those are maybe you want to change around the numbers of, and maybe you don't want to have yellows, or I don't know. This is the main deck. I wouldn't change any of these cards if it was me. All these red cards are very powerful, and I would definitely keep in the deck. The 8 other yellows that we run, the 3 yellow plunder runs, the 3 yellow weave lightnings, and the 2 yellow ball lightnings, those are the 8 other cards in the deck, and I would call those kind of the flex slots because they can kind of be whatever you really need. I believe all of those, that's 6 non-attack actions and 2 attack actions are our flex slots, so I wouldn't change those numbers too much if you don't have to, because we're trying to keep 30-ish attack actions and 30-ish non-attack actions. I know the Lightning Press mess with that, and the Razor Reflex mess with that a little. So I guess that's 27 attack actions and 27 non-attack actions with 6, reactions. Even the Lightning Press isn't a reaction. But this is the core. I'll have this linked as well. I would try to stick closely to this core. It's quite strong. And then, you can mess with what you want in the sideboard and what you want as like the flex spots in the deck. You don't really need to change the armor. You're just blocking. You're never, ever going to pitch for arcane damage because you really can't. You don't have any blues. It's just really inefficient to pitch. So this is just the core of the deck. And yeah, it's really fun to play. You just go super aggro. You punch them in the face. I'll probably be bringing some version of this. These lists will be updated as I mess with them too. So if you see a different list when you click on the link, actually I'll probably add a third link that'll be like, constantly updated list that'll have the date it's updated. So there'll be a third link that'll be like, here's the one I'm currently playing. But these are going to be the ones for this video, and they're what I'm on right now. But I'm testing all week with my team and with people in the Jacksonville area, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully I'll see some of you guys at Nationals in Orlando or the Calling or ProQuest. I wouldn't be surprised if I dropped from after day 1 of each and played in all of them. So I'll be in Orlando all weekend. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. And I will probably be on this deck. Maybe Bravo if I don't fall in love with this deck. But so far, it's really great. Fits my aggressive play style. And I'll probably be on this at Nationals and the Calling. So see you guys then. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.